Well, hello everyone. This is Lali here, and we have a very special guest, originator, researcher, and the founder of AIT, Dr. Foojan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lali. It is so nice to be with you and excited to have our conversation.
Thank you very much for being our guest, and we're looking forward to unfold what is AIT and how did you start this amazing method?
Of course, AIT stands for Awareness Integration Therapy, and we also call it Awareness Integration Theory because it not only it is a psychological and a clinical model that reduces depression and anxiety, and it's trauma informed and releases trauma. It raises self esteem, self confidence, and self agency. It also is going through educational aspect, which is, I'm teaching it at Cal State Long Beach in a couple of different courses, and it is being taught in daycare centers, and we are taking it to school from junior high and high school. So there's a broad aspect of it, as we call it, a theory. Um, how I got into it, I've been a therapist and a life coach for almost 30 years and have learned from, I could say, the best of the best that has been out there from different types of theories, cognitive models, emotional models, trauma informed and releasing models, and mind and body and behavioral. So I kind of took what was best from each one of them and brought them into a specific structure, which we take care of the present moment. We become aware of your thought process, emotions, and behaviors and impact in the present moment. We look at the kind of belief systems we've created in the past that are kind of like running the show. We have a process of cleaning and clearing them and kind of making ourselves into a whole versus these fragmented parts of ourselves. And then from a place that we are whole, we create intentions and create our future and look at the skills we need to move toward the future. So it's a comprehensive model that kind of takes care of the present moment, the past, and the future, and different aspects of ourselves, which but we need in different areas of our life, right? So that the model also takes you into becoming aware of how you operate in, for example, your relationship with your mate, in the intimate relationship area, or your children, or your work, or your finances, your body. If you have illnesses, how you relate to those, and then your friends and your family system, because we live in relationships consistently, and to be able to monitor ourselves and see, how am I doing? Am I effective in them? And if I'm not effective, what are the skills that are missing and how I can find them to go forward with them? So, kind of an encompassing aspect of our life.
Definitely. You described it so well. And thank you very much for bringing this into schools and education. I truly believe that kids has to start awareness process as early as possible so their life develops and unfolds way easier. So how would you describe, like, when does this awareness moment happens, when the change begins?
Well, the awareness is something that we, as a human being species, we have. We're probably the only species so far that we know that has the ability to reflect upon itself, that can be aware of itself, and looking at how we have automatic thought processes and emotions, and a lot of times automatic behaviors. Well, as a human being, we learn things and then we automate them in order to be efficient, but somehow all we've learned from maybe when we are born all the way to maybe 7 or 8 or even 15 becomes our life path. And then we automatically live as if we are still the child and act sometimes as if we're still the baby. So the awareness of how do I get my beliefs? Is it my uh, experience itself? Did I get it from my family? Did I get it from my culture? And generation after generation of messages that come through, and I just take them and believe them and move forward with them. And does it work for me? Something that worked for me as a girl who I was 10 years old. Does it still work for me as a woman of 60? or should I change that belief system and obviously with it a lot of the behaviors? Sometimes we also learn things in a different area of life. Like I can maybe learn how to communicate in my work area, very professional, like a professional and efficient, and do things in a certain way in my profession. But when it comes to communication to my family or to my mate, suddenly all that skill goes away, and I still maybe communicate, when I was a younger person in my family system, or I duplicate, for example, how my mother and father communicated only with my family, with my mate. But when I go into work, it's completely another way of communicating. So sometimes we've learned good skills, but only in a different area and haven't bridged it to the other areas of our life. And so some area kind of operates still on a very older version of me, while another parts of me kind of learn and move forward. So the awareness begins with gaining the skills of distinguishing between our thought process, our emotional process, how I behave, and how this attitude of thought, emotion, and behavior kind of impacts everything that I do, my surrounding, my relationships. The other aspect of it is learning, Lali, about how I consistently project, guess, estimate what's going on outside of me, right? Like right now, I could have a guess about, Lali's looking at me like that, then probably she thinks of me such and such a way, right? So I could come up with a lot of projections consistently,
Assumptions.
right? Assumptions. So for example, somebody can come in and their mate are in the kitchen or in the living room, and they can have a lot of assumptions, like he is just waiting for me to do such and such without ever asking. Or I can go to work and have an assumption about my boss. So we live upon our own assumptions. Um, Without sometimes even checking them out. And therefore, we actually might be living based on our own fantasy and not reality of what's going on. So the awareness of that, I think it becomes important. And another part is I take myself everywhere. So there is not only a way that I deal with the world, there's a way that I deal with myself, right? So have you noticed maybe if you go to a party and 10 people will tell you, Lali, you look so amazing. I love your hair. I love the way you wear and all of that. And then one person comes in and says, have you gained weight, Lali? And then suddenly all of those other 10 people who said all these great stuff goes away. And then what do I do to myself? Oh my God, I've gained weight, I look fat, I did this, and I did. So there's a part that we also do to ourselves. I do is a particular way I think about myself, which either promotes my self-esteem and self-confidence or bashes it completely down. There are particular ways that I feel about myself, and there are really different ways what I do to myself, which is, do I nurture myself? Am I, taking care of myself? Or am I like bashing and, controlling myself, or abusing myself or punishing myself and all of that? So there's a tool to create this kind of awareness about me with me and me with others. And then through this process, then I'll find out my belief system and the negative ones about me and the negative ones that I've created about the world that I live in. And then we go through another process for that.
That's very, very true. And definitely, I would say that we experience world through our own filters and internal representations. And you unfolded it so well, how important it is to have certain beliefs internally and operate based on them. So we filter outside world and believe in certain things they may not be even true.
Yes, it's amazing how much we live in our own stories, that it might not necessarily at all be true. And it's a waste of time for me to bash myself for so long. And I'm sure people who are with us and watching us, and maybe you have had that experience also, that the way that we treat ourselves and create a world inside, it it manifests whatever it is that happens outside of us. So if I think I'm great and I'm loving and I'm valuable as I come in to speak with you, I'm going to show up a particular way versus from the beginning, if I really bash myself and say, I don't know anything, how are people going to think of me? I don't know everything that I'm supposed to say, my accent is this, and, the way I look is this. And so when I come in and sit with you, I'm going to present myself as small. I'm going to present myself as I don't know if I'm sure about myself and how it's going to land on you. And the result is going to be very different. So it starts from here, but if we're not aware of how it starts, we can't really manifest how it lands on other people. But the other side of it is, how do I assess whether what I'm saying is accurate or not, or is part of reality? Is to look outside at the effect, at the result, and see what just got created. Is it something I intended and wanted, or is it something I wanted something else, but I created something very different? And I should monitor that and see, was it a particular belief system? Was it a particular thought? Was it a particular emotion that didn't create that? Or a behavior that didn't create that? Lali, for example, I've worked with a lot of parents, which they say, I love my child and, I'm worried for them. So if they come late, it's just that I'm so worried, I start yelling at them. Where were you? How could you do this? And all of that. And I'm like, what was your intention? Well, my intention is to let them know that I love them and I want them to learn. And it's like, well, the way you yelled at them and put them down and threatened them, I don't think they're going to, you're going to get what you actually wanted, right? So there's an intention here, but then how do I land it so that the result is actually what I want?
Definitely, I agree with you, and you put it so well together. We sometimes have intention of love and compassion and put it out there in the world in very different filter. And I would say this internal representation is the one that like guides us. And what would be the advice to step into that true emotion that we feel, which is love and compassion, and act on it instead of yelling and being worried?
I think that there's a place in us that we know, if we can become aware of ourselves, we know how to center ourselves, right? There's like a certain value systems that I can uphold and say, this is who I intend to be. I want to be loving. And then create the expression and the emotion internally is like, okay, how can I get to my loving place? People have different ways of getting there. Some people get there by connection with nature. Even if they're in their room, they can imagine the nature and come into that space. Some people have it that they'll connect with an imagery of someone who's dear before them. Maybe their mother represents love. Maybe God represents love. Maybe they have a particular symbol that represents love for them. So they can bring that to themselves and then kind of like bring to their vibration and bring their emotional state and their physical body into that type of an emotion and vibration. And then after that is like, well, what do I intend? I intend to create love. How could my behavior then show love? What are some of the behaviors that are supposedly known as loving behaviors? So maybe it comes through my words, my tonality, the way I look at someone, and respecting them, telling them how great they are for me, looking at the positive side, and then showing by words and physical body in my body language, and deliver the love that way through any other message, and kind of like bring any other messages that I want within that. So you bring yourself into it and then share it.
Definitely. Thank you very much. It's a very beautiful expression, how to feel love internally, have intention to express it, and stay in integrity with it and express it in the right form. It's an amazing advice. It's an amazing tool. And I'm very grateful having you today in our show, having this amazing life journey that you're experiencing yourself and giving to others as a gift. We're very grateful for that. And definitely for our viewers, I would say, please stay tuned. We have more tools and techniques and interesting topics to discuss. So we will speak again. Stay tuned.